hydrology and the hydrologic cycle. First, let us define what is hydrology. According to the U.S. National Research Council, in 1991, hydrology is the science that treats the waters of the earth, their occurrence, circulation and distribution, their chemical and physical properties, and their reaction with the environment, including the relation to living things. The domain of hydrology embraces the full life history of water on Earth. Why do we need to study hydrology? We live in a world where approximately 1.1 billion people lack safe drinking water, approximately 2.6 billion people lack adequate sanitation, and between 2 and 5 million people die annually from water-related diseases, according to GLAC 2004. And according to UNICEF's report, among the children in the developing world, 500 million have no access to sanitation and 400 million have no access to safe water. The UNICEF also concluded that more than half of the children in the developing world are severely deprived of various necessities essential to childhood. One might ask, how sustainable is this? The key to sustainability is the attention to the survival of future generations. Also important is the global context within which we must think and solve problems. The world's population is expanding rapidly, yet we have no more fresh water on Earth today than there was 2,000 years ago, when the population was less than 3% of the present. What's more alarming is that a large percentage of the world's population lives in urban areas. It was projected that by 2015, over 60% of the world's population will live in urban areas. And it happened. The demographic change of the movement of the people to urban areas is the largest challenge to water supply. The number of megacities, which populations are over 10 million, will increase significantly. In other words, megacities mean mega problems from many perspectives, not only from a water resources viewpoint, ranging from water supply to water excess management or flood management. Megacities and other large cities will be a drain to the Earth's scarce resources, while significantly contributing to the environmental degradation. As the Earth's population continues to grow, so will the growth of cities continue around the globe, stretching resources and the ability to cope with disasters such as floods and droughts. Urbanization has multifaceted effects on the hydrology of a watershed, including increased runoff volumes due to impermeable surfaces that reduce infiltration in watersheds and increase the hydraulic efficiencies of watershed, coupled with land subsidence due to overpumping of the aquifers. Hydrology will be impacted by climate change. The already significant threat posed by flood disasters and droughts will be intensified by climate change, particularly to rapidly urbanizing areas around the world. Climate change will have more and more effect on flooding in the future, particularly in the coastal areas where sea level rise will have a significant effect. Urban hydrology will be a major factor in coping with the effects of climate change and the rapid urbanization of cities in the future. Water quality is also declining, and globally contaminated water remains the greatest single cause of human disease and death. In summary, the field of hydrology plays a major role in the future of humans on Earth. Hydrology is a very important subject to study to help alleviate some of the many challenges that we face in the future, which are even more complicated by demographic changes, climate change, population growth, and many more. And now, let's discuss the hydrologic cycle. The central focus of hydrology is the hydrologic cycle, which is the Earth's water circulatory system, consisting of the continuous processes as shown in the two figures. And now, let's discuss what happens during the hydrologic cycle. Water evaporates from the oceans and land surfaces to become water vapor that is carried over the earth by atmospheric circulation. The water vapor condenses and precipitates on the land and oceans. The precipitated water may be intercepted by vegetation, become overland flow over the ground surface, infiltrate into the ground, flow through the soil as the subsurface flow, and discharge as surface runoff. Evaporation from the land surface comprises evaporation directly from soil and vegetation surfaces and transpiration through plant leaves. Collectively, these processes are called evapotranspiration. Infiltrated water may percolate deeper to recharge groundwater and later become spring flow or stream flow. Seepage into streams also to become stream flow. The hydrologic cycle can also be viewed on a global scale as shown in Figure 1.1.2. As discussed by the U.S. National Research Council in 1991, as a global average, only about 57% of the precipitation that falls on the land returns directly to the atmosphere without reaching the ocean. The remainder is runoff, which finds its way to the sea primarily by rivers but also through subsurface or groundwater movement and by the calving of icebergs from glaciers and ice shelves. In this gravitationally powered runoff process, the water may spend time in one or more natural storage reservoirs such as snow, glaciers, ice sheets, lakes, streams, soils, and sediments, vegetation, and rock. Evaporation from these reservoirs short-circuits the global hydrologic cycle into sub-cycles with a broad spectrum of scale. The runoff is perhaps the best-known element of the global hydrologic cycle, but even this is subject to significantly uncertainty. Hydrologic system. A hydrologic system is a structure or volume in space surrounded by a boundary that accepts water and other inputs, operates on them internally, and produces them as outputs. The structure for surface or subsurface flow or volume in space for atmospheric moisture flow is the totality of the flow paths from the point it enters the system to the point it leaves. The boundary is a continuous surface defined in 3 dimensions, enclosing the volume or structure. A working medium enters the system as input, interacts with the structure and other media, and leaves as output. Physical, chemical, and biological processes operate on the working media within the system. The most common working media involved in the hydrologic analysis are water, air, and heat energy. The global hydrologic cycle can be represented as a system containing 3 subsystems: the atmospheric water system, the surface water system, and the subsurface water system. The atmospheric system includes precipitation, evaporation, interception, and transpiration processes. These processes are interconnected to the surface water system, which includes the overland flow, surface runoff, and runoff to streams and ocean processes. The subsurface water system is interconnected to the infiltration, groundwater recharge, subsurface flow, and groundwater flow processes. In other words, the various processes that make up this global hydrologic system is interconnected in a rather complex fashion. The best example of a hydrologic system is the storm rainfall runoff process on a watershed. The input is rainfall distributed in time and space over the watershed, and the output is stream flow at the watershed outlet. The boundary is defined by the watershed, divide and extends vertically upward and downward to horizontal planes. A water budget is a hydrological tool used to quantify the flow of water in and out of a system. In other words, it is an accounting of all water stored and exchanged on the land surface, like river, lakes, subsurface like aquifer, groundwater, and atmosphere like precipitation and evaporation. The concept behind a water budget is that the rate of change of water stored in an area is balanced by the quantity and rate at which water flows into and out of that area. This concept is used by hydrological engineers to form the basis of effective water resource sustainability, management, and environmental planning. The water budget can be expressed in several ways. The United States Geological Survey, or USGS, defines the water budget for a small watershed as P plus Q in is equal to ET plus delta S plus Q out, where P is the precipitation, like rain, snow, and etc. Q in is the water flow into the watershed. ET is the quantity of the evapotranspiration from soils, surface water, plants, and etc. Delta S is the change in water storage, and Q out is the sum of water flowing out of the watershed. While other forms of the water budget equation exist, they all follow the same basic concept as shown in the figure. While a water budget is a relatively simple concept, it is essential for computing and evaluating available water resources for human and environmental needs. It is, therefore, important for engineers and decision makers to have an understanding of this tool. Changes in the water budget over a particular area over time can be used to assess the effects of human activities and climate change on existing water resources. Also, by comparing the water budgets from different areas, researchers can quantify the impact of factors such as vegetation, geology, and soil conditions on the hydrologic cycle. And now, how are water budgets used in engineering projects? In terms of large-scale engineering projects, water budgets are essential in the analysis and design of reservoirs, dams, and groundwater well systems. While these systems form an integral part of a region's water supply infrastructure, they are known to have adverse impacts on the environment and natural aquatic ecosystems. When assessing these infrastructures, numerous factors need to be taken into consideration. For example, are the benefits of such systems outweighed by the negative effects on the surrounding environment? Will operations affect the health of downstream riparian ecosystems? How will the withdrawal of the groundwater affect the surface water and the organisms that depend on it? Detailed water budgets form the basis for making informed design, engineering, and management decisions for addressing the above issues. Hydrological engineers will typically look at several parameters, including precipitation rates, evaporation rates, climate, geology, vegetation, and discharge rates of streams, among other elements, to determine the feasibility of water infrastructure projects. World water balance. Water balance is the most important integral physiographic characteristic of any territory. It determines its specific climate features, typical landscapes, and opportunities for human land use. Assessment of mean long-term water balances of large regions at a sufficient accuracy depends on reliable estimation of the major water balance components: precipitation, evaporation, and runoff, surface and subsurface. The water balance of each continent, except Antarctica, is given separately for the areas of external runoff and internal runoff, where precipitation is completely lost to evaporation. Water balance. Water balance is the ratio between water inflow and outflow, estimated for different space and time scales. For example, for the Earth as a whole, for oceans, continents, countries, natural economic regions, and river basins, for a long-term period or for particular years and seasons. Water balance is the most important integral physiographic characteristics of any territory, determining its specific climate features, typical landscapes, possible water management, and land use. Analysis of water balance components for individual territories and time intervals is of great importance for studies of the hydrological cycle or water circulation in the atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere system, as well as the underlying processes influenced by natural factors and human activities. Precipitation, evaporation, river runoff, and groundwater outflow, not drained by river systems, are basic components determining water balance. Besides these components, there are minor components too. For example, is the moisture due to atmospheric water vapor condensation, deep artesian water outflow, or conversely, recharge of deep aquifers, water losses for animal survival, and etc. According to the investigations, however, these components are very small if related to large river basins, regions, and the globe. They are of no importance for water balance computation, so they can be ignored. Water balance equations. Water balance equation for any land area and any time interval without taking account of the above minor components is as follows. P plus R prime S plus R prime on is equal to E plus RS plus R on plus minus delta S, where P is the precipitation, E is the evapotranspiration, RS and R on are the surface and subsurface runoff from some land area, R prime S and R prime on, surface and subsurface water inflow to the land area, and delta S as the water storage change in the area. Take note that if the water balance equation is considered for a long-term period, it is simplified because delta S is 0. Water balance equation for oceanic slopes and large river basins related to areas of external runoff from the continents, when it is possible to neglect surface and subsurface inflow from adjacent areas. The water balance equation for a long-term period is as follows. Px is equal to Ex plus Rex plus Ron, where Pex is the precipitation, Rex is the river runoff from an oceanic slope to the ocean, sea or lake, Ron, subsurface runoff not drained by river systems and directly discharging to the ocean, sea or lake, Eax, evapotranspiration including additional evaporation due to human activities. Water balance equation in the areas of internal runoff or endorheic regions. The whole quantity of precipitation is ultimately lost to evaporation. So the water balance equation for a long-term period for such regions is as follows. Pint is equal to Eint. Pint is the precipitation. Eint is the evapotranspiration from endorheic areas. Water balance equation for the world ocean as well as for individual oceans and seas. The freshwater balance equation for the long-term period without taking account of water exchange between the oceans will be as follows. Eoc is equal to Poc plus Rex plus Ron, where Eoc is the evaporation from the ocean, Poc is the precipitation onto the ocean surface, Rex, river water inflow, Ron is the subsurface water inflow to the ocean. And lastly, water balance equation for the whole Earth for a long-term period and a steady climate situation. It is evident that the total precipitation should be equal to evaporation from the water surface plus evapotranspiration from the land. Example, for the world water balance, the water balance equation similar to that for endorheic areas is valid. PGL is equal to Poc plus Pex plus Pint is equal to Eoc plus Ex plus Eint is equal to EGL, where PGL is the global values of precipitation, EGL is the global values of evaporation. For other variables included in the equation above, refer on the previous slides. And that ends our discussion for today.